Hi, I'm Crystal and welcome to TapTV. On this episode, we pay an extended visit to two pioneers of light sport aviation, Mike and Sandy Loehle. The originators of the popular P-51 Mustang replica will discuss their fascinating personal history, as well as the developmental history of their line of kit planes. We'll also check in with Julie-Cristie for an update of general aviation news. So sit back and enjoy this special episode of TapTV. Mike and Sandy Loehle are true pioneers of ultralight and light sport aviation. They met each other as competitors, but became business partners, friends, and ultimately spouses. They went on to produce and market several lines of successful kit planes, and today continue to bring innovation to light sport and experimental aviation. Mike Loehle developed a keen interest in aviation at a very early age, taking his first solo in a Cessna 150 on his 16th birthday. After earning his private pilot license, his interest turned to hang gliders, culminating in his purchase of an early Seagull III. After a trip to Oshkosh with his uncle, Mike became interested in the small, lightweight aircraft, which would eventually come to be called ultralights. Mike purchased an early primitive ultralight known as an Easy Riser. He immediately went to work improving the design by adding a tail, a larger engine, and landing gear. Mike dubbed his new airplane the Airplane XP, and he began producing and selling it commercially. In 1981, Mike took his airplane to Oshkosh, winning a Grand Champion trophy. Meanwhile, young Sandy Burgess began to take an intense interest in aviation after a flight with a friend in a Cessna 172. After reading the first issue of Ultralight magazine, Sandy embarked on a quest to build and fly her own lightweight airplane. She ordered a kit for a Hummer ultralight and began assembling it in her apartment. Did you really build an ultralight in your apartment?
Yes, I did. I ordered an airplane, and then a truck driver called me one day at work and said, "I want to make sure I can get down your street." It was then I realized, oh my goodness, they're bringing it in a semi. What was I thinking? And so when he unloaded it, he thought this was just really a hoot, really, delivering an airplane to a girl in an apartment. And so he helped me unload the packages and everything, and we had one package, an 18-foot long tube that was the boom of the Hummer that wouldn't fit in the apartment, so we had to leave it outside. But I had engines, and I had tubes, and I had all kinds of hardware and seats and fuel tanks and everything that fit in my apartment. And yes, in where the washer and dryer was, I didn't have that. I had a workmate, and I had tools. And I had an engine that sat on my kitchen table for quite some time. I had tubing down the hallway, and my extra bedroom had seats, tanks, all kinds of extra aluminum tubing and that sort of thing, and the sailcloth for the wings. And
you can see I picked the right wife.
After successfully building and flying her Hummer, Sandy went on to become an ultralight dealer, selling the Hummer as well as other ultralight designs. Sandy moved her dealership to Louisville, Kentucky, bringing her in direct competition with Mike Loehle. Although rivals, Mike and Sandy soon realized that working together would be mutually beneficial. What began as a business partnership eventually turned into a marriage partnership that still endures. How did you two meet, and what were your first impressions?
Sandy, go ahead.
Well, I actually was a dealer in a small town and felt that I needed to move to a bigger town to have more people who wanted to fly ultralights. And so I moved to Louisville, and he was already based at Bowman Field at Louisville, and so I came to visit the competition. And he pretty much ignored me. I was in his way.
Well, she was a young competitor, and I just kind of wondered where in the world she got enough knowledge to even begin to be instructing people. She was cute, but after that part of it, it was just amazed that she's actually out there teaching people to fly. So we went out to her strip to really meet her and see what we could do as far as a business relationship. So.
And that seemed to make sense after evaluating that scenario. He was in a state park and needed a lot of help with people walking in, and I needed help with engines and things like that once in a while, so I figured that would be a win.
We like to say we married the competition.
In 1984, the Loehles purchased the Ritz Propeller Company and began producing propellers for the ultralight market, producing thousands before production was discontinued in the 1990s. The purchase included a 137-acre campus complete with an 1,800-foot grass runway. In 1985, after considering new product ideas, Mike and his father Carl began design work on a new lightweight P-51 Mustang replica known as the Loehle 5151. The new design became an instant hit, with more than 450 kits being sold in 26 different countries. The design also spawned a cosmetic spin-off, the Loehle P40. What compelled you to design a Mustang replica?
I kept trying to figure out what would be a good product to bring out that would help stabilize the financial part of it. And I kept going back to Paul Poberezny, the founder of EAA, would continually indicate that the ultralight flying lawn chairs that we were working with would really turn into nothing but small light airplanes. And so the light bulb came on coming back from Sun and Fun in 1985 that maybe we should jump ahead and try to create a ultralight or a light airplane that resembled something that was very popular. And the most popular airplane in the world, no matter what language, is undoubtedly a P-51 Mustang. I felt like if we brought out a P-51, it would be legendary the day we brought it out or 20 years later. And to this day, it's been a good seller, and it probably is as popular now as it was when we brought it out, because it's just an affordable way for people to have their own P-51 Mustang.
In 1991, Mike perceived the need for an extremely basic, inexpensive, and easy-to-build entry-level kit. The result was the Loehle Sport Parasol. Unlike the sophisticated Mustang, the Sport Parasol was a basic, bare-bones design. Given the sophistication of the 5151, why did you go on to introduce the Sport Parasol, a very simple and basic airplane?
With the Sport Parasol, I was burnt out on doing things for cosmetic reasons. I wanted a simple airplane that was an airplane that would be very efficient to fly, but also back to the ultralight roots, something simple and basic. The little Sport Parasol, even to this day, has only 2 curved parts in the entire airplane, after working with all the flowing curves on the P-51. Landing gear and the wingtip have 2 aluminum tubes that are curved. Everything else is straight. But we wanted the airplane to be back to basics and low cost. It was just going back to, let's say, from a Corvette back to a Model T. Both do the job well and have a different following, but we just didn't want to have to do things for cosmetic reasons after the Mustang.
Loehle also offers a line of aluminum biplanes. What led you to offer a product line so radically different from your existing designs?
Well, doing replica airplanes, of course, we were doing World War II replicas. The World War I replicas were biplanes, and my first ultralights were biplanes. The actual parts that I had used to build our ultralights were actually the components used to create the replicas, the World War II line that we ended up with. So it was a natural fit for us.
In the course of building developmental aircraft, Mike became frustrated with some of the shortcomings that he perceived with existing paint systems for experimental aircraft. In response, he simply developed his own paint. Can you tell us about your paint system?
Yes, I had dabbled with paint for years for my own airplanes. I'd always mixed brand A and brand B to come up with what I wanted to use on our airplanes as demonstrator. I approached some chemical companies to bring out my own line of paint coatings. So when we did, my entire process was mainly aimed at being flexible, to be able to use on fabric airplanes, metal, or composite. And we created a line of paint that all is the same paint family. The primers, colors, and clear coats are all the same, so you can cover and paint an airplane, a fabric airplane, in under 24 hours, which is virtually unheard of in the fabric covering world, because the paints are usually dissimilar. The primers are different from the colors and so on. But we brought it out. It has a very wet look, and we supply paint all over the world now.
Where do you see the future going with ultralights, light sport, and aviation in general?
Well, aviation has a natural cycle to itself. We start out very affordable, very simple. Consumer demands from the Wright brothers' day on start forcing you to make the airplanes a little better, a little cleaner, a little faster, and in turn a little more expensive, a little harder to operate. The ultralight movement in the late 70s, early 80s was a prime example. We really went back to making affordable airplanes that were very similar to what the early aviators in the 1915 to 1920s were doing. And in modern times, the ultralights developed all the way into the new light aircrafts, the LSA market. We went from what referred to as fat ultralights all the way into airplanes now that are very sleek and fast. In turn, they've reached a plateau to where some complain they're not affordable anymore, like was the original intention. So I fully expect a whole rebirth of some type of flying machine, whether it's, quote, ultralight, but basically simple, affordable airplane.
Thank you very much for talking with us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate it. We've enjoyed it.
Mike and Sandy were building light aircraft before the term ultralight was even invented. These aviation pioneers helped shape the course of recreational light aircraft, and their continued journey together serves as a source of inspiration. What a fascinating story. In recognition of his many accomplishments, Mike Loehle was inducted into the EAA Hall of Fame in 2008. We would like to thank Mike and Sandy for graciously granting us an interview. We'll now join Julie-Cristie for your TapTV News.
Hi, I'm Julie-Cristie with your TapTV News. Two stunt pilots, Kyle and Amanda Franklin, survived a horrific crash at an air show in Texas. The couple suffered severe burns over 60% of their bodies following the crash. Kyle and Amanda are part of the Franklin Flying Circus. They were at a key point in their wing walking act when the incident occurred. Amanda was able to get back into the cockpit before they landed and the plane caught fire. The couple's fathers, Jimmy Franklin and Bobby Youngkin, were also stunt pilots. They were killed in a mid-air collision in Canada during an air show in 2005. The Air Fiesta 2011 was the first event the couple had on schedule for the season. We here at Trade-A-Plane would like to offer Kyle and Amanda our prayers and best wishes. In other news, Austro has announced plans to develop a 280 horsepower, 6-cylinder diesel engine for the aviation market. Austro will be working in partnership with Steyr Motors to develop this new engine, which will be based on the Steyr monoblock motor M1. The M1 features an integral crankcase and cylinder. This motor has proven itself time after time in both marine and special vehicle applications around the world. Diamond has 2 airplanes in the works that are planning to use this engine. The DA-50 Magnum, a single-engine airplane, and the twin-engine Future small aircraft. Christian Dries, CEO of Diamond Aircraft, remarked, "With the expansion of our product line, Austro Engine will further solidify its position as a producer of powerful, fuel-efficient, and environmentally responsible aviation piston power plants." In other news, Cessna plans to introduce the next-generation Corvallis at Sun 'n Fun in Lakeland, Florida. The next-generation Corvallis is a single-engine piston airplane. Lancair developed the current production turbocharged Corvallis TT. Originally, it was the Columbia 400 until taken over a few years ago by Cessna. It is the world's fastest fixed-gear single-engine piston aircraft, flying at speeds up to 235 knots. A mock-up will be on display on March 29th at Sun 'n Fun. Full details about the next-generation Corvallis will be available at that time. And that's your TapTV News.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of TapTV. On our next episode, we'll learn about the birth, death, and amazing rebirth of the very first Beechcraft. We'll also take a look at an artistic yet interesting video submitted by a young TapTV viewer who is still in high school. And as always, we'll review recent aviation news. From all of us here at Trade-A-Plane, we wish you blue skies and happy landings. Good night.